I'm here with filmmaker Paul Starkman, whose debut feature Wheels is now available on demand. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm very excited to talk about this movie, which centers on Max, aka DJ Maximilian, who's an aspiring Brooklyn hip hop artist slash DJ,
Yeah,
whose world gets turned upside down when his older brother Terry gets out of prison. Now, we've seen movies like this kind of before. It is a genre, but
definitely.
one of the many things that I think sets Wheels apart is the way that in the screenplay you avoid a lot of the pitfalls of the overly happy consequences, the overly tragic consequences of a lot of these situations. Some of them end up sort of unresolved in the way that life sometimes leaves things unresolved, or the idea that there's more life happening after the credits roll. I wonder, when you set out to make this movie and when you were writing it, were you conscious of that? Were you thinking of other films and trying to avoid these situations to really give your film a unique voice, or did it just kind of was it incidental?
That's a great question. It's funny because it is, it is derivative, like all movies, comes from things you've seen before from other hip hop films or street films or New York films, of course. But it's my first film. And I wanted to tackle subject matters and basically put it on a canvas that I thought I could handle and take it to places where to me um left the audience thinking and questioning. You see a lot of films that have fight scenes or violence or this kind of thing. I wanted to really simplify this and do it more like a day in the life kind of thing. And yeah, it's like in Rocky, there's a big fight at the end. I consciously didn't want to do that. I wanted you to leave the theater, wondering what would happen next. I always say, like, if you can turn the page and be like, what's going to happen next? I want to know what's going to happen next, or leave the audience thinking that, then I've done my job. Because sometimes if you wrap it up too tightly, it doesn't feel realistic. And so that was a goal that I was going for. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned there isn't a lot of violence. In fact, aside from a few f bombs and a little bit of almost implied
Yeah,
violence, some kind of mild. I was going to say roughhousing. That's not right,
yeah,
but it's a
yeah,
mild roughing up, right?
yeah, yeah.
This movie, could be, PG-13, and I don't mean that as a knock. I
Hmm.
mean that is very
Sure.
accessible to, I think, an audience that really, needs to see it. I mean, this isn't just a film that adults can appreciate, but I think, kids, the sort of the people that you are portraying
Hmm.
in this movie, they're a little bit older than kids, but they're still,
Yeah.
young. I think Max is probably 19 years old or so. So that, and it feels very much like a throwback to films from when I was a kid. They're not R-rated, but they're in that PG-13 mold, but they're still kind of dangerous. Like you feel like you could see anything at any time.
Right. It's always interesting because when we were playing the festival circuit, your parents would say, "Hey, is this something my kid could watch?" And at the time, my daughter was around 8, and I was like, "She's seen it, so I don't see why not." So but yeah, it's funny because you do see a lot of hip hop films or street films that have fight scenes or violence or guns or drugs, and like I love that stuff in films. I love watching all of that. I'm a junkie for all of that. But on our small budget and the way, I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, show another fight that's not gonna be as good as one that I've seen. So I really wanted to spin it in another direction and make it more emotional. Like, what does it mean for him, the main character, rather than see some fight that's poking around that doesn't really you know rise to the occasion of there's so much TV, so many movies that you've seen. So I really consciously wanted to not show the violence, but really what it meant for him. And yeah, and that was a budget thing too. I'm not gonna. So yeah.
Well, I mean, those, if that's the case, I mean, that kind of limitation, I think, really paid off. There is a scene where Max, played by Arnstar,
Hmm.
who it was just brilliant in this part. He witnesses someone getting, what I can assume is messed up pretty badly. But similar
Yeah,
to what Tarantino did with the famous ear scene in Reservoir Dogs, or at least the first part of that, we don't see the stuff that we think we should be seeing. It's all done through sound, and the sound is almost as
right.
horrifying as what we could see on camera.
Exactly, and it's resonating with him, and that's the weight of it is still there. So it comes across story wise, it comes across that way. But I love seeing I love seeing Tarantino movies and films that have the violence. I also just, as my first film, I was like, I don't think, on this size of a canvas, it would really help at all to do something like that.
That's the second time you've used the word canvas in our
Hmm.
conversation. And it strikes me that in addition to the caliber of actors that you got for this role,
Yeah,
you cast unanimously all across the board brilliant faces. These actors that you have in this film,
hmm,
they all look like they were illustrated. They're just
yeah, yeah,
they're so beautiful and interesting to look at in the combination with the beautiful black and white photography. This could almost play as a silent film, just watching these beautiful kind of characters. Not beautiful in the kind of glossy CW TV way, but they look like
yeah.
real people that have just faces that you don't see a whole lot. Now, did you seek out a lot of these actors, or they just kind of come across your radar during the audition process?
Yeah, a lot of them came across during the audition process, and I was fortunate to work with this casting director, Zan Ludlum, out of New York, and she read the script and she was like, "I got it. I know what this is." And she works mainly in print, and that's what she does, faces. It's funny that you mentioned that. It's all, a lot of her casting is off the street. It's not like someone that's been modeling forever. They're like real people, real. So it clicked for her and she got it. Now a lot of these faces have now gone on to do bigger things and have gone on to been cast in bigger things. But yeah, we played with the parts and see who worked well together. We did a chemistry test with Arnstar and Shirley Rodriguez because we didn't have Shirley in the film, and we were really looking for the Liza character, and so we had a few that we were down to, and Arnstar. As soon as Shirley and he, as soon as they did a scene together, it just lit up. It was like they were flirty, but also like they got each other and it just fit right. And like they seemed like it would be a real relationship. So yeah, just a lot of testing and through the casting process.
Now, the flip side of that, uh,
Hmm.
this is something that always interests me when it comes to casting movies. People always talk about the leads who get along with each other. When you
Hmm.
come to cast the heavies, like the Oscar character, who is
Yeah.
very much the villain of the film and has a certain kind of dark charisma about him, you can see why people kind of
Yeah.
respect him and are also deathly afraid of him. Do you put your hero character kind of in the room with this guy to see is Arnstar scared of this guy enough?
Right. That's funny because he's a great actor, because when you talk to him and you meet him, he's such a sweetheart. So he really came off as, and he and his sidekick Jay Alphonse as well. They're just two of the sweetest people you've ever met, and it was really, I chalk it up to their chops. They were really able to bring it, and Kareem who plays Kareem, who plays the heavy, what do you call it? He is, he has something to him where you don't know where he's going to go. He's like a little bit loose and you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that when he came in for the audition, that was the thing I liked about it. Like which made it scary. You just don't know what he might do at any given moment. So yeah.
So did you draw these characters from people that you know from life, or are they kind of whole cloth archetypes, or how did you create this idea for the story? Because there's a lot of interesting concepts going on,
Hmm.
layers within the story. For example, and I don't want to give too much away, but there is a
Yeah.
remote control device that I saw, and I was like, this could be something out of a Marvel movie, or it could be something that I'm just not aware of that people are doing on the street.
Yeah, they are doing it. And if you look it up on YouTube, it is something that people do. They're able to unlock. I'll give it away. It's okay. You're unable to like you're able to unlock cars through your computer. If you look it up on YouTube, it's kind of scary stuff. But I know, and I was like, is this gonna really fly? But I just wanted him to have that edge where he's just smarter than those guys. And crafty, but is he too crafty for his own good? So but yeah, I came up with the story a long time ago. I always wanted to make an underdog story. I love Rocky, like I said before, Saturday Night Fever, these Brooklyn films. And I love that story of someone trying to find their way. And I love hip hop. I grew up here in New York and Brooklyn in the 80s, and I just wanted to put the two together. So always with the inception from the inception, it was always like, I want to make something on the street that's feasible, that's with hip hop, and someone trying to make their dreams come true. And it's funny, I went to film school and I always wanted to make my dream come true. And my trade is I'm a reality competition director. So I direct a lot of competition shows, and in those shows you see a lot of people putting their passion on the line, and have been doing it for a long time. And it really, I kind of put the movie to the side as I was building my career in TV, and I just was like, wait, I want to put myself. So it's kind of, he is me and I'm him. And I do have an older brother who's not in jail. And I do, I am from Brooklyn and love hip hop, and just all the things I like in a movie. I like, like I said, I like a little street drama. I love hip hop, and I love family stories as well. So I wanted to put it all in there, but not try to cram it in, just put it in on a, the way I could.
I'm going to ask this next bit as delicately as I can, and
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of walk out into this
Hey.
ledge first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am a mixed race kid. My mom
Uh-huh.
was white, and my dad was black.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your background is.
Okay.
Are you grew up in the loving hip hop and in Brooklyn, and you
Yeah.
have written and directed a film with a primarily Black and Latino cast.
Yeah.
Are you speaking from a place of are you a mixed race as well, or are you
No,
black?
no.
I can't tell.
I'm no, I'm white. I'm Jewish. I'm, just a Brooklyn kid who loves hip hop and loves movies. And I just, I always, I want to make movie about people that I would love to watch. And so to me, that was the exciting part. And, with hip hop, I'm trying to pay homage to the soul of it. And that's Black music, and to me, that's a Black art form. And so to me, that side of it is just for me loving it. So yeah.
Yeah, I not sure exactly. I wasn't trying to like imply anything
Oh,
with the question. Is I know today a lot of conversation around movies is about
yeah.
artists talking to an audience from a perspective that is shared with that audience. So I'm just wondering, when you're writing these characters, was there any hesitation on your part, or were you just like, screw it, this is the culture that I love, these are the people I love. I love all of it. I'm going to put my best foot forward to speak in as authentic a voice as I can.
Absolutely. And this is you said it just right, Ian. I wanted to make a movie that I would like to see. And like I said, and I wrote the script. It's funny, I made the movie in my 40s. So the lingo on the street is not the same. And Arnstar is a young guy, and he would talk to me honestly about, because this film, he said to me, was like a lot like his life. And so it touched him in that way. But what I wanted to do is give space so that everybody could bring who they are to the film too, and bring what they have too. So I'm not, it's a great question, because, you want to, is this, I'm speaking for this film. I'm not speaking for like representing all cultures or this culture or that. I'm just trying to tell a story. And I was like, if I don't tell the story that I want to tell, then I'm not really being authentic, either. So I feel like it's resonated with a lot of people. And to me, I was like, you know what? You just have to trust that, you
Now,
know?
and again, I have not lived in the shoes of these characters, but watching the
Yeah.
film, I felt like I was watching something that was coming from an authentic place,
Hmm.
and from a place of knowledge. Now, you mentioned that that Arnstar and some of your other cast kind of helped you along because
Yeah.
we're both in our 40s. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
I'm just curious, what is what's one of the coolest or most embarrassing things you learned from these sort of like tweaks from your cast, like the generational differences?
That's it. You know what? It's so funny because we would block a scene, and first we start with the page, the script, and we would stand, and sometimes, I would it would have some wording that just would sound like me or older. I revamped the script over the years, and Arnstar would like tap me on the shoulder and be like, let me just try something right here. And same thing when it came to dancing, or when he's dancing in front of the booth, like, I would try to show what I would do, and he's like, let me just handle this and do it. It was interesting when Arnstar got the script. His father was part of the Rocksteady crew. um One of the original members. He never got to meet him. He passed before Arn got to meet him. So like hip hop is just part of Arnstar, and his sister is a rapper named Little Mama. And so he's like, I have hip hop in my blood, and I'm just trying. He's such a performer, dancer, rapper. He's just like an all around force. And when when he came in, he was like, yeah, this really touched me, because I have family trouble, and I know where this guy is coming from, trying to make his stuff come true. So it was great to have that authentic voice, in the casting, because he was him basically.
That's kind of surprising because you get the notion that there's sort of hip hop in the blood and sort of hip hop, royalty for the lack of a better term, but
Hmm.
it doesn't sound like there's any pretension or any ego, especially because
No.
in the character of Max, there is the performative ego, when he, starts when he's DJing or whatever, he's got to kind of big up himself, right?
Hmm.
But when he's just taking care of his grandmother or dealing with his brother or trying to get with this new girl that he likes, you can see him as just kind of a shy kid who's had a bit of it rough.
Yeah, yeah, and that's him. That's who he is. And he's always trying to give more than take. And he has that quality about him where he is like a nice guy, and that's what I wanted Max to be. He's a nice guy. He has something about him that's energetic and positive, and he'll keep going. Nothing's gonna stop him. And yeah, so yeah.
Now, sort of another chemistry question. I'm always curious
Hmm.
about this when I see films with montages. There
Hmm.
are some lovely scenes where Max and Liza are getting to know each other. They're walking around the park, they're walking through the city. It's scored wonderfully. They're talking, but we're not privy to those conversations. Do you script that stuff out, or do you literally just kind of follow them around and watch them do their thing and like, okay, we're just
Great
gonna make
question.
these the characters in the movie now?
Great question. That whole scene was not in the script. We had shot the swing scene that day, where they're talking on the swing, flirting, and so forth. And the light was beautiful. It was, the end of the day, and I was just like, they're together. They're so well, and this park has so many little. I said, let's shoot a few vignettes to make some moments, because I knew in the script going into it, and I was looking for how this could happen to like build their relationship without, they're so chatty already that I was like, without it, it would be nice to just see how they, and so yeah, it was not in the script, but we did, find the angles and say, let's shoot here, them crossing the street, them holding hands at the bus stop. Just tried a few things, and I think it worked. It's one of those things where you just have to trust your instinct in the moment and take it, and just go for it.
Well,
Yeah.
there's towards the end of that, I think it might be how the montage ends. There's that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call it an iconic scene of the
Mm-hmm.
two of them kind of embracing, we're watching both of them. They're looking up at the sky, the combination of those great faces I mentioned, but also the black and
Yeah.
white cinematography. That's where it really pays off. Can you tell me about the decision to shoot in black and white, and, how you got such vibrant, rich, clear images? It almost redefines what people should think of as black and white
Wow.
film.
Ian, thank you so much. That's awesome. Yeah, I always wanted to shoot it in black and white. I always wanted to, you see a lot of, like we were talking about before, you see a hip hop film or a hip hop TV show, and it's like either glossy, like super glossy. The cars are shiny, the street is wet and perfect, the guns are shiny, the clothes are perfect, or it's trying to be, retro and show you the beginning of hip hop in the 80s. And that's fine. I just thought, if I'm going to make another film, it's not really a hip hop film, but it can get thrown into that genre, that I want to do something that separates the story out, makes it my own, puts you into his world. And still, I love old movies too. So I love black and white. I love On the Waterfront. I love great classic films. And I'm just like, we went for it. So my friend Ari Bowles, he's a cinematographer. The whole film was shot on a red camera, and we were always in black and white. In black and white when we shot it. It was recording in color, so that information was there, but it was always black and white. So I also thought that we'd be able to play the light and use it, in the blocking for storytelling. So like under the bridge, he comes out and steps into the light, and it's little things like this where he has some more knowledge. Or at the end, the light is pouring in on Max, and well, I don't want to give too much away, but like the way it's staged,
When he's making the phone call.
right before that,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
with his brother,
Yes.
yes, and his brother is against the window, and he's darker, and Max has the daylight pouring in, like, he's, so these little things I thought would be very telling, and before, like you said, the canvas, the scope of it, I could use that to like shape the world a bit, and yeah, Ari just did a great job, and he didn't have much, like I said, I've been working on these shows forever, and a lot of the crew from Ink Master, I directed 10 seasons of that. So the crew came to help me, the art director and the production designer built some of the sets, and some of the camera guys were holding the boom, and some of the sound guys were doing the clapperboard. So I planned the days well so that we could just get through it, but also with the DP really try to organize our shots so they would be telling.
So in this case, are you calling in favors with people? Are you able to pay them, or is
Yeah,
it just like, hey,
yeah,
we've been working together. I'm going after my dream. Will you help me?
a mix, a mix. We did a Kickstarter for the film, a successful Kickstarter for it, which helped raise like a third of the budget. And then I kicked in more of my own money, and over the years, it took a while. So, but yeah, I called in a lot of favors. We were able to pay some of the crew, and a lot of the lighting team and so forth would come in, on a rotation. A couple of guys are available this day, a couple of ladies are available that day, and we would just, make do. Some of the staple crew would, the art team, a couple of them, as well as like hair and makeup, they were always there, and the AD, so.
Conversely, have any of these folks kind of recruited you saying, hey, I'm going to make a movie or do something? Have you pitched in on anyone else's projects?
You know what? It's funny. No, but I have had some conversations with how I've done the Kickstarter, and how, what my process was to make that happen. Um, so that in that way. Yeah, people, it's funny. No, but I'm ready. I'm ready to help. I'll carry some crates, some boxes, whatever you need. It really takes so much. It takes an army, and it really, I felt very fortunate because there was so much energy around the story and people loved it, and they were just like, we're doing this, come on down. And so we built a lot of that around it. And yeah, I feel lucky that we're able to do it.
Was the sound studio that
Hmm.
Max hangs out with? I mean, it's
Yeah.
sort of a central character in the movie itself. Was
Yeah.
that something you built or did you find it?
We
Both.
built it.
Okay.
Yeah, we built. So a friend of mine, Matt, has a garage here in New York, in Brooklyn, that's empty. I don't know if it is now, but it was empty at the time that he was trying to rent out. And we said, hey, can we use this to build a couple of sets? So we built two sets there. We built the radio station, the mix, and then not the mix, Brooklyn City,
Mhm.
and then we also built the repair shop that Terry works at on the other half of it. So it's this narrow garage. So one direction is the radio station, and the other is that
S-
shop.
So when you say garage, you mean like a residential someone's house, not like a auto repair shop
It was an
garage.
auto garage. It was an
Oh,
auto
okay.
garage. But like a one, like you could fit maybe three cars in there. Just a narrow. I think he got the space somehow years ago. And it still had a little front office. So we reproduction designed it and tweaked it out, and then shot in that office, and then in the back created the radio station. I always knew that I wanted it to have a crack in the window, because it's just so telling. It's just like, this is where we're at, but it was like, it's all about the music and not about the space, really. And I don't know how much into hip hop you are, but in the '90s, I used to listen to Stretch and Bobbito. They used to have a show here in New York, and it was like the show. It was like late at night to early in the morning, and it was like Biggie Smalls would come there, like, and just rhyme. And like before their albums came out, Eminem and so many rappers came up there and just would, and they were like at the forefront of the New York. Someone would record something and they'd go up there and they'd play it, and it was always the newest of the new, the most underground stuff. And that was at a college radio station, and you know they moved on from that, but that was such a pivotal moment in the '90s. And so I always wanted it to be, I was highly influenced by them, and what they were able to do in the space didn't really matter because you couldn't see it. It was all about what you heard, and I wanted that idea to resonate in the movie.
I'm glad you mentioned the crack in that window because I wanted to
Hmm.
ask you about that. If that, you say that it was production design, it was a complete fabrication, and that
Yeah.
crack is deliberate. I was wondering if that's just sort of a found part of the space. I love that. I noticed that the moment we go into that studio, I'm like,
Hmm.
what happened here? And
Right.
I was glad that there wasn't a story or a flashback or something. It's just this mystery, and you get the idea. It could have been a temper tantrum. It could have been an accident. Could have been a full on
Right.
fight. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's just the nature of this place. Leftover food, you don't know what it is. The turntables still work, sort of. So that's, yeah, that's I think I had a line in there once that was like, the only reason this station exists is because something like, because your neighbor told you it's on. Like, you didn't even know that it's on while you're in there, so like your neighbor heard the show. Yeah.
Um, okay. So your work in reality TV, I was reading that it exposed you, as you kind of mentioned, to a lot of different kinds of people all pursuing their
Yeah.
dreams. And then this is
Yeah.
your chance to pursue your dreams and also to find out kind of to explore what makes dreams tick and characters coming up against their limitations. when you were working on this film, it took
Mm-hmm.
years to put together. What limitations, what walls did you run into as an artist, and how did you break through them?
Fear. I think fear is the number one thing that will stop you from making anything happen. And you always think, oh, I'll be ready at a certain point. I'll be ready, or I'll have more know-how or more, and um, I reached a point in my life, just honestly, where where I got remarried and I met my wife. This was before we were married, but I met my wife, and she was super, super, like, she's just behind me 1,000,000%, on like whatever passion, whatever dream, and whatever it is, however it ends up. And and so I had this idea to make this movie for so long, but I worked on all these shows, and I was like, what am I doing? What am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? And that was the impetus. She was the spark, and I just was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm doing it, and it was just like time to go. And my daughter was very young at that point, and I was like, what am I gonna teach my daughter if I'm not gonna go for it? Here we are now. Let's just go for it. And so that was it. And I could see how that can be crippling. I had my and I still do my TV career. So I'm doing fine. Sure, you're paying the rent, your life is fine, but like, is it the juice? Is it the stuff that you really, you know, um, want to dedicate yourself to? And so, yeah, you watch the people on these shows. I worked on Project Runway and Top Chef, and these chefs coming from other countries, and like putting themselves. Grandma taught me how to make this, and putting it on screen, and you say, wow, this person is just putting themselves on the line. you know and it is on the line, but it's also just like being vulnerable and being open to doing it, because there is no line, because what are you going to lose? So that's what I took from that. And then with the push from my family, and it was like, let's make this dream come true and take this thing out of the drawer and make it happen.
That's awesome. I talked
Yeah.
to another filmmaker named Jeremy Sklar about a month
Hmm.
ago, and he had
Hmm.
a sort of a similar experience. He was a development exec in Hollywood, and
Mm.
in his 40s, he decided, I'm going to go back to film school in Chicago and make a movie, and he did.
Wow.
So
Good for him.
I hope this is sort of an epidemic of of creativity, of
Yeah.
new life being breathed into these careers, because this is a wonderful story to hear.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So it can be so crippling, the idea of what to do, or how big, how much it is to take on to make it happen. But you try to relate it to real life. If you want to go to the store and go grocery shopping, you got to grab your keys, get the car, go downstairs, go to the store, make a list, get one item at a time till you fill the car. So it's just like, if you can chop it up and break it up into the pieces that are bite-sized and manageable, and then you'll get to a point where you got to just do it. But like, that's my approach is like, it might seem like a big wall, but the only way to do it is like one shot at a time, one thing at a time. And so I hope anyone that hears this, go out and do your thing. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You're just going for it.
Now, with that support system and
Hmm.
that's the idea of breaking everything down to manageable steps, was there a moment where, sort of in every hero's journey, there is the big disaster, that the big dragon that appears, and you've got to
Yeah.
slay it and move forward? Did you have that moment, or was it just
Yeah.
these little setbacks that you're like, I can do it, I can charge through? Was there ever a darkest hour kind of a thing on this movie?
I had two. So one was, we were not that far from shooting, and I didn't have a max. there was no max, and so we were trying people out. And if you hear Arnstar's story, I should have, next time we'll have him come on as well. But what he says is a friend came to him and was like, hey, you should go out for this casting, this is you. And he had done one film before. He had done a film called Roxanne on Netflix. He played MC Shan, and he goes, well, I can't really do a lead. I don't want to mess up this guy's movie, so I'm not going to go do this. So he didn't come. And so here we are, Zan and I were like, what are we going to do? And she's like, let me see if Arnstar will come. And so she pushed to have him come. He came, and when he stepped into the room, it was like, he's him. And when I tell you, like, we were within like a week of shooting. And it was like, I was like, when you make your first thing too, you're like, well, I'll settle for this, or you can't, because the only thing that matters is the screen and what's on it. And so like, it's not about getting through it. It has to be right, or else what's the, what are we doing here? And he was him. And that was amazing. Another funny one, just to tell you. So years ago, in college, I like blew a credit card and I maxed it out. And then I thought I made a deal with someone on the phone, and I paid off some of it and to close it out. We're filming, and I think I had like $25,000 in our business account to like pay the crew and for that couple of weeks or whatever it was. It was a lot of money to me, doing the film. And for some reason that week, my bank account was seized. They said I owed this money. It was gone. The
Oh
25,000
no.
was frozen. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I ended up having to like call a lawyer, and in the next couple of days, and then I was able to, I can't remember. I think he was able to free it up, but then I had to pay for that. And it was like, it was a mess, and that was a scary moment for me. So those two things were the biggest scares for me, because on a low budget film, $25,000 is a lot of movie.
That's, yeah. Well, 25 grand is a lot of money. Any way you slice it.
Anyhow you
Yeah.
cut it. Yeah. And I have the crew standing there, and I'm getting this call like, you're frozen. I think the producer went out to go get lunch or something, and the card wouldn't work. It was like
No.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
What did your career in reality television, reality
mhm.
contest TV, what dividends paid off while you were making your short film? Was there kind of crossover, or did you have to like use a completely different discipline in your brain to execute your film versus reality TV?
Well, both. I think that, I always love movies, and I love blocking in films, and I love what cinema is versus I've always done the shows that are like, people are passionate about something, or verite. I got my start on The Real World as a camera operator, shooting seasons of Real World, Chicago as well.
Okay.
I did the Chicago season as a camera operator. And I always knew that I wanted to tell the story like a movie, the way movies are told, the framing, the blocking, the music, so forth. But when it comes to storytelling, when you're shooting reality TV, or you're shooting a scene between two people that's happening in a kitchen or something, you have to, in an instant, say, what's this scene really about? What's important here? And so while you're filming it, you have to work quickly. Is it about this person talking, or is it about this person listening, their reaction over the talking? So you learn to work quickly, and so you walk into a location, and the light comes in through the window or whatever, and you're like, let's do it here because that'll be fast, and you have to work quickly. And I think that speed allowed me to get through the schedule quickly, and that's a lesson, in storytelling, what'll work best for the story, because ultimately that's what's going to grab you. But I always wanted to, then also, like we said, mimic it over films you love, or performances you like,
Kind of one of my last questions here, and hopefully,
Yeah,
if I don't want you to spill any trade secrets, but
sure.
I'm a reality TV junkie,
Oh, are you?
as is my wife.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In fact, I like flipped out when I saw that you directed like the first season of Nailed It. That's like a
Yes.
staple.
Yeah.
Okay, so two questions. One,
Okay.
Wes, the production assistant who brings out the
Yep.
prizes and
Yep.
stuff, is
Very
he
good friend of mine.
okay? So he's a real dude. He's not like
He's a,
he's.
no, he's a real.
How
Yeah.
did he get snagged to be the on air like Wes? Yeah,
Wes,
yeah.
good question. So Wes is an assistant director. He's an AD, and he's
Okay.
ADing the show. So he moves the crew around, is in charge of the schedule. He's the one that takes what's on paper and makes it happen in the field. And so they, it was a Netflix thing. I think they really wanted to break the fourth wall and show the cameras and show. So it's just developed over time. And they were like, Wes could bring out the trophy. And then it would always be a quick decision that day. And the crew would joke on headset, Wes, you're going to come out of door number 1 or door number 2, or you want to pop up behind the stoves. So it was always like a fun thing, never like overthought or anything. I only did the first season. So after that, my schedule conflicted, so I wasn't able to do more. But it really was just like out of the last minute. I have another show that's on air now called Crime Scene Kitchen. It's on Fox, but Wes was the first AD on that show too, but he's not on camera, so you'll see his name in the credits.
All right, I'll have to check that out. That's great. Now,
Yeah,
sort of a tangent to that. Sorry, I
yeah.
promise like to my second question.
Please,
I just
please.
he kind of has this humiliated, or not humiliated, but just like, yeah, I'm gonna bring out the trophy, kind of a look.
Yeah.
Is that really him? Is he just not? He just wants to get back to work, but he's got to schlep this trophy out to the middle of the stage.
I'll leave that one for the TV audience. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because he was yeah. It's funny because it was like, Wes, you can do it, and he's like, I can, I have to make sure we shoot the show, it's that kind of thing. So yeah.
All right. Now, so this is the trade secret question, as it were.
Okay.
I've been watching reality TV before it was really reality TV. I was weaned on the real world, as a young teenager,
Yeah.
as a lot of people of our generation were. I've always
Yeah.
wondered how much of reality TV, and just in your experience, I don't know if you have experience beyond what you've actually
Yeah.
worked on, but
Yeah.
how much of it is reality versus just capturing a lot of footage and making a story in the edit versus, this is my latest theory, because we've had a generation, at least maybe two,
People watching.
who
Yeah.
have been weaned on this stuff, and they kind of grow up seeing people acting in a way that maybe they think this is reality. So they just develop these big personalities and they develop a drama sensor.
Yeah.
How much of it
I can
is
see
real?
some of that. Yeah. So the shows, like I said, the shows I do are usually people that have a talent of some sort or a passion. So a lot of shows, cooking, crafting. I do another show for NBC called Making It, with Amy Poehler or Nick Offerman, and that it's really, when it comes to the jokes and the setup of a challenge or something, they have to hear what it is that they're going to do. But those people have to make that stuff, or they have to bake it, and they have to work with their team member and cook it and serve it and so that they have to do. That's who they are. That's what it is. On these other shows where people scream at each other and that kind of thing, I don't really cross into that line. So who knows, but I do agree with you. I think after seeing years of it, people do have a who they think they should be or something, or how they're going to be edited. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, but ultimately you better show up with the right cake or the right dessert or the right food dish or craft, or else you'll be eliminated. So that is the ultimate thing. Yeah. What are some of your favorites? The Real World, you said?
Well, yeah, we watched The Real World, and
Yeah.
Floribama Shore. I shouldn't be confessing this stuff,
No, I love it. I love it.
But yeah, nailed it. We're back into the Bachelorette, just
Uh-huh.
this kind of stuff. It's enjoyable stuff. We like, sitting and talking and laughing and stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
it's fun because we watch Nailed It and some of these other competition shows with our kids, because it is sort of educational entertainment in
Yeah.
a strange way. It's not Sesame Street, but you're right.
No.
People are following their passions, they're being creative, and they're making
Yeah.
stuff that, even if they know that they're not the best at it, they're still, putting their foot forward.
Yeah, they're being vulnerable and they're putting, it's like a lot of the singing competitions. That to me, these people are amazing going out there and doing that. And it's cool to see. And when you're live there on set, it's really cool to see. And so, yeah, thanks for keeping me employed.
Well,
You know?
thanks for keeping me entertained,
Yeah.
on TV and at the movies. So Wheels is now available on demand, pretty much everywhere you can get stuff on demand.
Yeah.
And I really recommend that folks out there watching this and or listening to it, check it out. It is seriously one of my favorite films of the year so far, and I don't see it
Wow.
coming off of the list. So yeah,
That's
congratulations.
amazing, Ian.
Well,
You
and
see a
thank you
lot
for,
of films.
I
Yeah.
do. It's a sickness,
Yeah.
but thank you for taking some time to talk with me. Are you, now that you've got this feature under your belt and you're still
Yeah.
doing the reality TV competition shows,
Yep.
are you going to do another feature? Do you have something else in mind?
Absolutely. Yeah. My wife and I wrote a new movie. And so we're going to be going out for financing shortly on it and try to do the next thing. We're really proud of what we did with Wheels, and we feel like the next one we're going to be right back out there. Another New York story, very different and not black and white, very different. But I think it'll be universal and a wild ride. So I look forward to coming back and talking about that one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm
Yeah.
excited for it. So good luck with that, man. Good luck with
Thanks,
Wheels.
man.
Congratulations. And yeah, we'll catch you later.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, and great talking with you.
All right. Thank you.
All
All right,
right, be
man.
well.
We're wrapped. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, great
Appreciate
to meet
it.
you. All right. Take
Yeah,
care.
you too. All right. Take care.